lots of stuff going on in the room. There was lots of different things there, right? Hey, but they all related to the same thing, which was the stance, other than the clothes. Mark, it's great, because I actually do have something about the clothes written down here in a minute. But I think you've got to process that information in your head, and then what is it that the computer spit out on the other side? And it can't be all that information. It can't be for this guy that's first day skiing, doesn't know much about skiing, just wants to come down in a straight line. He doesn't need to know, hey, shins on the front, bend your ankles, straighten up your knees a little bit, get your hips over the front of your feet. All he needs to know is, how do I get down this hill without my legs burning so much? You know, so what I would do, and this encompasses a lot of the stuff you just said, is I process that in my brain and I go, hey, stand up a little bit. And already he's gone from here, in the back seat, sitting down, legs on fire, to, whoa, I'm now centered over the middle of my foot because I just pulled everything forward by telling him to stand up. Now, is this the perfect stance either? No. But it's a heck of a lot better than that. And it's a good start. And on the next straight run, or the next straight run, you may build in some of that other stuff that you're saying. Okay, now you're up nice and tall. Let's relax our shins into the front of the boot. And now, then I've gone from here to here to there. You know, it's getting better every time. And that's what I mean by holstering things and not saying it all at once. Because, like I said before, I've seen some instructors on the front line get this guest and spew all that information at them at once, or tell them some things like, okay, if I told that guest to just put his shins on the front of the boot, well, would I do it like that? I mean, that's putting my shins on the front. That's not fixing me, right? Or do I put my hands on my knees? Sometimes that makes you go back even more. Tall, get them up, out of the back seat, get them tall, then build them into an athletic stance later on. How athletic do you need to be to do a straight run? Not very athletic, right? You can stand there and go. So you probably don't need the most athletic stance in the world from the get-go. You can make them more and more athletic as they start to go faster and do more athletic things. Questions on that? All right.
Good job.
Well, hold on, Snowy. We're getting tougher. Okay. So we're going to go through, let's spit out the buttons. All right, we're going to go through the wedge turn, and I'll share some of my ideas of good skiing with you in a wedge turn. I'm not going to worry about this just yet. I'm just going to worry about the picture and what I say. So, a good wedge turn should have a lot of things, and we'll start from the initiation. From the very start of the turn, in the perfect one, our skiers should rise up a little bit. When they rise up, that helps them flatten the skis and makes it easier for them to turn. It also helps them recenter their balance. By that I mean, you can see this image here in the middle of the turn, or what ski does it look like they're standing on? More? The left, the outside ski. And then over on the other side, they're balancing a little bit more on the right. So when you rise up in the initiation or in the transition, you actually recenter everything. You get off that outside ski and you start to get ready to get onto the new one. So we rise up. We turn our legs a little bit through the middle of the turn to get the turn started, get the turn going down the hill. In the middle of the turn through to the completion, we start to balance more on the outside ski. So that ski actually starts to guide us around the turn. You've got to give the ski a little bit more edge grip as it comes around the middle to the end of the turn, so it bites onto the snow and takes you where you want to go. So a good wedge turn has everything. It's got a good stance where you rise up and you go down. It's got pressure control where you balance on the outside ski. It's got rotary by turning your legs, and it's also got a little bit of progressive edging to keep biting into the snow. If you have all of that combined well, all the 4 skills combined well, then you're doing an awesome wedge turn. That being said, you don't go out and teach your guests an awesome wedge turn straight away. It's a series of building blocks to get here, to get to the perfect one, right? But us, in this room, we should know what the perfect goal is. What's my end goal that I want to get them towards? And this is a level 4 ski instructor doing one, so in reality, our guests are never, probably going to be this good, don't need to be this good, but they're the skills that are mixed together to make a really nice one. Anything to add to that? Does that all make sense? I'll point out a couple of things here because I built this presentation on what I've heard and what I've seen through teaching at Heavenly so far this year. And one thing that I hear and see a lot is, okay, we got to turn the legs in a wedge turn. Absolutely true. But it's not the only thing. Okay? That's the first thing that we generally teach people. They can do a great gliding wedge, and to get it to start to turn, we teach them to turn their legs, to get it to start going where they want. But it needs other things to make it work really well. And the other things are all that stuff I just mentioned. Balance on the outside ski, a little bit of edge, a little bit of up and down to help change the weight from side to side and flatten the skis. Okay? Leg turning's just the start. And it's a good thing. Here's a good one in motion.
Snowplow turns are steered turns, or an appropriate combination of all the
Hopefully we can see all those things that we just mentioned.
For a round turn. The skier rises to recenter.
Rises up to recenter through the transition, turns the legs, starts to balance on the outside ski, rises up, turns the legs, balances on the outside ski, edges it a little bit, rises up again, balances on the outside ski, edges it a little bit, round it comes. The wedge doesn't really change size, right? It just stays the same size throughout. So how do our guests get speed control if they're not making the wedge bigger? By the shape of the turn, by coming across the hill. And the skis are never going to come across the hill unless you blend those skills together well, like we just mentioned. All right, you got a good image. You can start chatting to your groups and see what would you work. Don't worry about the skill, but it just could be anything. What are you going to work on with this guest now that you've compared that images? You might have 10 things, and that's all right. You just got to pick one ultimately to start with. All right, start chatting with each other. I think learning from your groups there is probably the best way to get good at this. So.
She's also lifted while you're crossing because of what they're doing. She's working with Chisholm. She's never lifted again. So, but you're not after when you stop. That's what she's constantly doing. And what do you see what you're doing now? Okay, turning talking about turning front foot or the other. Not the same thing, right? So she's turning one and not the other. Her hands.
They have one stronger leg, no problem.
Yeah, so if her hands are down,